I would like to welcome all of you on this wonderful day. In these difficult times, I know it's very difficult to take out time from your schedule. So I'm Aditya. I'll be taking you through this session. And in my total experience, I have been working with the majorly telecom industry and banking industry as a whole. Now, before we start up with the session, I would like to set up some ground rules for all of us. Let's try to make this session as interactive as we can. That will help you, to gather the maximum amount of knowledge which is possible in this short span of time. Your questions can be limited to the scope of session, or even if you have some other doubts, you are more than free to ask those. I will try to answer those to the best of my knowledge. So to begin with, what are the session objectives? We are trying to keep very simple objectives in mind. We will be seeing the MERN stack, the components which form the MERN stack, the working of MERN stack in comparison with the MERN stack, introduction to Node.js. So what is Node.js, what are Express.js and all of these. And we'll be trying to work on a hello world thing. We'll be kind of creating a hello world API thing. And then we'll be working on an end-to-end project. So from this session, what I aspire you all to be able to have a bit of knowledge of MERN stack, to be able to understand, like what a stack actually is. So before I move on, how many of you are actually developers who are available here? Like how many of you are actual developers, and how many of you are thinking of choosing a career in that domain? Yes, guys, you can reply me in chat. It would be very great. So we have the Deepshika, Sushant, someone will join from a viewer phone and someone from Lenovo phone. You can come up. How many of you are actually full stack developer? Or to answer that, like, we nowadays, we are getting a lot of requirement in the industry in terms of full stack. So actually, what does the word full stack means? So just to answer it for everyone, basically when till now, our whole scope of technology was divided into three stacks. So initially, when our software started development, right? So we used to have desktop-based applications. We all know that. So whenever there was an application, you had to install it on your phone or on your laptops. Then we moved to a server client architecture, or we call it the N tier or the 3-tier architecture. Then we moved ahead and we further bifurcated it to form the service-based architecture, or we call it SOW. Now, what are all these architectures all together? And now what we are doing is, now it is very difficult for a company to hire three resources of different level of knowledge, like say one working in front end, one working in back end, and one working in the database layer. So with the advent of new frameworks and with the advent of new technology lines, this has become a very important and a very demanding field nowadays. So what is a full stack? So if there's any developer, or if a developer is able to develop an application from the scratch and end to end. What I mean by end to end means from the UI or the front end to the back end, which is my API, and to the last end is my database. I'll draw a small diagram to depict what I'm trying to say. Okay, sorry. I'll land up to my, so I'm just trying to open a whiteboard for just to give you a brief understanding. So initially how things were working were, so I had so this is my structure. So this was my box. Everything resided inside this box, all the applications. All the applications were available here itself. But now things were not easy, with technology coming in, with the net coming in, basically, things had to be divided. So that is how we divided. So we had one layer on the UI and a backend. In between these was a layer known as the backend. So now what is this? This is typically you can say my UI. So what is UI? Or whatever you see on the screen, when you go to google.com, what is this Google page? This is the home page, which has some icons, some buttons, some form. Anything that is interacting with the user is a UI. So typically this was done in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It went further using JSP or ASP.NET. So all these were the frameworks which were coming in. But all these frameworks were not tightly bind. So there was a resource who was working on the front end, there was a resource who was working on the DB layer. This is my DB layer. What are databases? So MySQL is one of your database. Oracle is one such database, and MS SQL Server is another database. Now all these databases are there. To have these two interact, we were having a layer of coding which was done in either in Java or in PHP or in .NET. Now this meant that I had to hire 3 developers and here is my client. So what is a client? Like a client is a browser, right? So who is using a web client to access your application, right? Now this is my client. Now, client is a browser. Basically, it's a browser. Now, to have 3 people or to hire 3 people becomes a very, very difficult and a very expensive task at the end of the day. That is where we led us to a new stack development or to a new technical term by the name of full stack developer. So let's see what that is. And now before jumping in further, just a bit about me. I'm Aditya. I did my master's in technology from BITS Pilani. I'm having almost 7 years of experience into professional application development, and my experience has been quite varied from Tech Mahindra to entity data and to many banks in India. And if I talk about my experience with Angular application, I've been working on the Angular for the past 2 years, and I had a six months of experience on my React application development as well. Now, when you talk about MERN Stack, let's understand what are the main components or the 4 wheels of the MERN Stack. So the first wheel is Express.js, AngularJS, Node.js, and MongoDB. So we had a wrong sequence. It's MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and Node.js. Okay, first of all, how many of you understand what is AngularJS and what is Angular? Any one of you? So any versions till version 1 was named as AngularJS, and post that Angular took its new name and was started to name as Angular. Now, MongoDB is what is MongoDB? It's a NoSQL database. All of us know that, right? So how it works? It's basically into so we have a JSON thing. So what is JSON? JavaScript object notation. So a database type architecture which stores the entire data as a JSON or as a document as they call. Now, other than MongoDB is my Express.js. So what is Express.js? Basically, it's a framework. So what do you mean by framework? So like if you remember, if you relate to this framework over here I was using Java or PHP to write some APIs, right? So all the work which was done over here can also be done in Express.js, right? Moving on to from Express.js is my Angular. So what is Angular? Angular is a front-end development technique, and Node.js is my server. Now, any application in the world needs a runtime to run on, right? That is what we name as Node.js. Are we all good on this part? Guys, just reply with yes or no so that we are on the same page and I can proceed further quickly. Okay. Now, moving on further is my concepts of MERN. So MERN has 4 components. Those are MongoDB, Angular, or Node.js, and Express.js. Now, why is MERN so popular? So till the advent of MERN, things were going very fine. They were going good actually. There was nothing new or nothing remaining. So I had a different sort of library or API language for my front end, a different one for the back end, and all of this was working perfectly fine. But that was leaving a problem in the in our case. How? Because I had I had to take different people from different domain to work on all these languages. So what came up as a solution was that till now it has never happened that the entire stack is in is in JS, is in JavaScript. So your MongoDB is JSON, and Express.js is again JS, Angular is again Angular, and Node is again Node.js. So all these stacks are actually written in JavaScript. So if you have the concepts of JavaScript handy, then it becomes a cakewalk and you can develop your whole application from the scratch. Now, Why it is, what's the advantage? Advantage is that all the code from the starting, from the backend to the front end is written entirely in JavaScript. Now, since my data is also in JSON, it's very easy to, print it on the screen, or it's very easy to work on it without having to, if we talk about RDBMS, we have to, get the data from the server, then we have to work on it, right? We have to modify it, we have to print it in our format. So all these things don't need to be done when we're working with MongoDB. So all these things combined together gives us a really good framework to work on. Now, another advantage or another alternates for the full stack or the mean stack are LAMP and WAMP. What is LAMP? LAMP is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. This is one of the framework. WAMP is with my Windows. Similarly, I can have these work with Java as well and all of these things. But the only advantage of mean is, you need only one language. Like over here, I need SQL, I need PHP, I need HTML. So all these things, all these requirements actually jump into form a single requirement. Can we move ahead now, guys? Yeah. Moving on further is my concepts of mean and MERN. When you talk about mean stack, there are people who are confused, like what is mean stack and what is MERN stack? When should we work? When should we use mean and when should we use MERN? So I've graded it in bullet points. So mean is nothing is something which works with Angular, and MERN works with the React. In a similar way, you can have MEVN, which is Vue.js. So the concept still remains the same. Only addition or only replacement is Angular is replaced with the React. So let's see how does this comparison comes out to be. So we have divided this structure into categories, and we are trying to compare them with each one of those. So type. So what's type of mean and what is type of MERN? So when I talk about mean or MERN, see these M, E, and N, these are common. Here also M, E, and N are common. So only difference needs between Angular and React. So over here, when I talk about my type, so mean is more of a framework. So what do you mean by framework? So basically Angular is a framework, right? It's not a library. So how a framework differs from a library? In framework, there are a set of rules which you need to follow. Like for every component, there has to be certain rules. Now, with these rules, there are addition to it. So it gets a bit easy to use, but at the same time, the learning curve increases or it takes time. Whereas React is a library. So React is as simple as, like importing a React file and getting started with it. So no hefty work needed, just simple import and you are good to go, right? So React is a library, whereas mean is a framework. Now, what next? Language. What are the dependencies on my language? So if I talk about my language, so mean is based on TypeScript and MERN is based on JS. Now, so what is TypeScript? TypeScript is another language based on OOJS, which is object-oriented JavaScript, and JS is basically this. MERN or React is based on JSX. So the difference between these two can be part of some other study, but overall, like since React uses JS, so it becomes a bit easier. So it gets a +1 hands-on over here. Architecture. So the entire architecture of mean is or Angular is component-based. In MERN, there is no specific architecture. So what that means is, okay, I got a chat question. Okay, so Dipsha, to answer this question, every mean developer is a full stack developer, but every full stack developer is not a mean developer. So a full stack development is basically it's a parent. And in that parent, so a developer who works on Java and database and all of that is also a full stack developer if he can work on UI, backend, and database at the same time. And a mean is a subset of full stack development. So you can use these words interchange. Now people have been in habit of using this interchangeably because of the popularity it has gained over time. but it's a complete difference in terms of the tech stack which they use, the underlying tech stack that these technology use. Does it answer your question, Deepshika? Okay. Now, moving on further is so when we talk about architecture, so everything is based on component. What does that mean? That means that I have to add a component for every single word or for every single platform. That is difficult to add on. Why? Because you have to go with the binding. You need to understand when to create a component and when to create child. So that adds to the complexity. So over here, we are, and at the same time, there is ease of work. You don't need to worry about, how do I manage this, and all that management is done by Angular. So we can say that Angular wins +1 over here. Data binding. So Angular has two-way data binding, or MERN Stack has two-way data binding. What does two-way means? If I have a form element, I'll give you an example over here. Imagine I have a form element over here, something like this, and this is my Angular script running in. So if on this form element, if you have a input box, say something where you are writing your phone number, something of that sort. So whenever this is updated, the corresponding scripts update, and the vice versa is also true. What it means, the binding is two ways. This object is binded with this JavaScript code, whereas the same is not the case with my React. Moving on further is my concept on data binding. So we have already done this. DOM. Now DOM is regular, so we use the normal DOM. Okay, how many of you understand what is DOM, guys? Yes, what is DOM? Yes, guys, what is DOM? Okay, DOM stands for object oriented model. So document object model, sorry. Document object model. So what do you mean by DOM? So when you load any HTML page, the entire page which is generated, that is known as DOM, right? Now, the DOM is regular and virtual. So we will keep this for some other lecture. How these two differ, that will be a different part of the story. We try to cover some other time. And with that is the ease of use in terms of learning. So this is a bit easy to use. And MERN is also easy, but there's not much of handling which needs to be done. So any doubts in the MERN versus MERN stack? Guys, anyone having any doubts? Guys, anyone having any doubts? If no, I'll continue. Now, the next point comes into picture is my Node.js. So what do you mean by Node.js? So basically, Node.js is an open source cross-platform. So what do you mean by open source and cross-platform is that whenever I'm working on, whenever I'm working on my application, I need a server, right? So that server is given to me by the Node.js. So it's a runtime. So how many of you know what is a server, understand what a server actually is? So don't confuse this server with the hardware server. So basically to render pages to the client, to accept requests from the client and to give response. So for all these requests or for all these handlings, we need a runtime, which is Node. So how it works, it lets developers use JavaScript to write command line tools. And basically it's nothing but, so we'll be seeing a practical example of the Node server in picture. So don't worry about that. Yeah. So basically so what approach it comes is, so basically when we talk about Node.js, what we are trying to achieve is, I'm trying to create a platform which will allow us to have both server and client running the same language, which it has never happened till now. So because it's not possible for a server to compile, or it's not possible for a JavaScript or for a browser to compile my application built on Java. Why? Because Java is a Yes, guys. What is Java? You know what is the difference between a compiled language and an interpreted language? So due to that difference, it's not possible for us to run Java on the browsers or like to basically to execute all those commands, which can happen in case of my JavaScript. Moving on, so there are some confusions. People often confuse that. So basically, when we talk about .js is something which people understand for my basically in terms of understanding that it is a client-side library. No, Node is a complete server-side library, and Node.js or Node.js is just the name given to it, nothing more than that. So moving on further is basically Node.js is capable of handling asynchronous I/O. So what it means is that, what is asynchronous? I give you a response, I give you a request, you process the request and you give me a response. Till the time you give me a response, I am not waiting for any response from you. I continue to work on my own. This gives power, or this gives us to run our applications in parallel. So understanding all of this, it's very important, or it's one of the most important feature available of in Node.js, which was available in other servers also. But for the JavaScript engine to work on, this feature has came in for the very first time. Now, moving on, basically, whenever we are working on any application, we have some real-time communication coming in. Real-time communication comes in the form of, my games, my programs, chatbots, chats. These are some really very good examples of real-time communication. So Node.js is capable of handling these platforms or these applications at scale. This gives us the power to actually implement our applications in a way that I can depend, or I can count on the Node.js as a server. Guys, any doubts in this part till now? Yes, guys, any doubts? So once you have the knowledge of once you have the knowledge of Node.js, the next point comes is the Express.js. So when we talk about the architecture, we understood that I have a backend, which is either Java or PHP. To replace all of that, I have got a very good or a very flexible robust framework in the terms of Express.js. So what is Express.js? It's basically a flexible Node.js application framework, which gives you the ability to design backend. So what do you mean by backend over here? So whenever I use any application, I am depending on a server to process some information and give me the response. The same thing can be done by Express.js. So middleware is my node, and the utilities which have been given in Express.js allows you to create some really quick and easy APIs. So what are APIs? Basically, API stands for Application Programming Interface. These APIs help us to interact with the front end. So like whenever you log in any application for that matter, you would always find that the data is passed from the APIs. So all that data processing is done or is possible in single page application or in the sparse architecture because of APIs. So Express.js has the capability to develop or to work on APIs. Now, with the functions which Express.js has given us, it becomes very easy to develop HTTP APIs in a fraction of time. So guys, shall we try with the Express.js example? I'm creating a new folder. Let's name it as my app, just for the sake of simplicity. So I name it as my app. Okay, sorry, I'll create it from the command line directly. So I say cd --. Okay. I navigate to the directory where I'm supposed to work on, and I go to the main webinar, and over here I type ls. I'll create a new directory by the name mkdir, and I'm naming it as my app. In my app, I have so this is a directory created, right? So I change my directory and I navigate to my app. If I find typically there is nothing present in this file or in this folder as of now. So what I need to do next is I need to actually navigate down and I need to find out what are the contents of this directory or what are the folder. I have to initiate it basically. So what I do is npm. So what is npm? Npm stands for Node Package Manager, and I type npm init. So what it means is that what I'm trying to do over here is I'm saying that this particular project will be my node project or an npm project. So npm is Node Package Manager. Init is a kind of an initialization command. So the folder which was empty will now be created. So what I'm trying to do is, it is asking me what is the package name you want to give. Let us name it as my app. What is the version which you want to give? And if we don't change it, whatever is typed over here as default will be passed on. Description. So what's a description? Basically the name of the project. Like say, if you are building a search engine, then a search engine can be the description. Or if you're building an e-commerce application or grocery shopping application, then grocery shopping can be a description. Now, what is the entry point? So I hope all of you have worked in either in C++ or in Java or any language for that matter. You would have found that everywhere there's an application starting point. In majority of the cases, that is a main function. So over here, we don't have a main function, but we specify which is that file from where our application should start the execution. So I'm naming it as, I'm not changing it as of now. Now, next is my test command. So what is test command? So basically when I say that, how should I test my application, or if I test my application, what should be the cases or what should I work on? Then I use a test command. The repository, the keywords, the author name, and the licensing, and this is the file which is created, and I say okay. So if it is yes, you would say enter, and if you navigate down to this directory, you are finding that the package.json has been created. Let me open this for you and show it to you in the Visual Studio Code. This is my package.json created, and over here, this is a file which has come up. Now, till now, nothing of Express has happened till now. What I need to do next is I need to actually install Express.js. So what I type is I type npm. So what is npm? It's a Node Package Manager. Install is a command. Express is the library I am ending, and I am typing save. So if I write save, what it means is that this file will be created, or this module will be added and will be saved to my package.json for permanent changes. If you are testing a library, like say, will it work or not, then you can simply say install, then those changes won't be preserved. So this will download this library from the server and will give us the output. Let's see. Okay, so it has added the node module, and if you look into the node module, so all of things which are there for as a part of Express.js have been added in. So this is a typical or a very simple example of my Express.js project. Now let us try to create a hello world application for that sake. So what I'm doing is I'm saying that it's a Express.js application by calling constant express. And on this express, I'm calling the constructor and initializing the app object. And I'm saying that this is running on the port 3000. And whenever the user calls / or the home page, I'm returning hello world, or it's just a hello world API. And I'm saying that the application is listening to this server. I will copy this and I'll create it as a file over here. I'll go to my Visual Studio Code. In my app over here, I add a file. I name it as app.js. I paste this particular part of the code and I save it. And now the file is over here. I just need to render this file on the server that app.js. So what node is the server, and app.js is a file it is listening on. So it's saying that example app is listening on this port. Now I'll open this port over here and I'll open this. So I see the hello world API is coming in. So you can change anything to that matter, or you can give it any API. Now I'll copy it, I'll paste it over here. If I say hello world, like if a user is typing the message as hello world, then it's a hello world response trigger. So you can have different APIs and different responses for all the applications, right? So now if I save this particular file and I'll restart it, though the restart is not required every time, still you can do it. And if I type / hello world, so now you are seeing that I'm getting a different response. That is how your APIs actually listen to you. So you have one API for user request or user login, one API for registration, and for all of those things. So those are the way of working of all the APIs. So guys, are you good with this part? That is my typical working with, with my, you can say typical working of my Express.js and Node.js. Guys, are you good with this part? Can we move ahead now? Now, moving on to this, from this is my next part of the code, which is my database. Guys, can I take that there are no questions still here now? Okay, so I'm taking silence as no, and I'm moving ahead with introduction to MongoDB. So what is MongoDB? Like we all are hearing about this, that it's becoming so great and it has a really good product. The way data is saved on the MongoDB, it's really good and it's progressing. But what actually is MongoDB? Typically, when I talk about any database or anything, in my any application, when the two applications are talking together, they actually interact over here like this. So I have a name, and let's name it as Eduonix website. Let's name it as https://www.eduonix.com. Okay. So whenever my two websites are talking to each other, they always talk using JSON. So what is JSON? This is a JSON. What is JSON? JavaScript object notation, right? So if Java is talking to PHP, they would do it using APIs, and APIs would talk either in JSON or in XML. But when think about, but this logic is saved on my relational databases. So we all know about RDBMSs, right? So in my RDBMS, I have a row for, let's name it, say a name, and a column for name and a column for website. Now, this has Eduonix and so on. There are so many names coming in this entire list. So whenever I'm picking up any value, it is picking up that value, appending it, and giving me the response. Such kind of schema was working till now, but now it is very difficult for us to work on that schema because my major of the communication is happening in JSON. To power that, MongoDB or the company came up with a new concept known as document-based data storage. So what it means is, guys, I'm opening this link so that I can give you the link to download also. And okay, sorry, where is it? You can go and say software community server. So you can download this community server from here. This is the latest version. I think 4.4.1 is the latest version, which is available in the market as of now. And you can choose your particular platform. So whichever platform is fine with you. It can either be Red Hat or anything of that sort, and the packaging file. So it can either be Mongoose or it can be any file which you want. So it can be a server. You can give any version for that matter. You can even choose Windows also. So it is available as a whole. So once you download it, you can get the link and you can download it. I'm giving you this link as a chat for you to install it on your machines. One thing to notice or to understand is MongoDB is also available for specifically for Linux and Mac users as a as a home brew or as a brew library. So the steps are available for that as well. So you can try to do as per your comfort or as per your own need, right? Now, so how MongoDB actually works is something which we will be seeing right now. So when you talk about MongoDB, my entire structure of MongoDB is a document-based structure. So if you talk about it, it should be something like this. How do I change this page? Okay. This is my document. So this entire is my document. In this document, this is a structure. So if I have to create a user structure, I create a username. No need to have a table or anything of that sort. So username, let's name it as Eduonix user. A password field. So whatever things are needed can be directly done from here, from the shell itself. Now, this entire structure or this entire thing of saving data as a JSON is termed as document. So we call it document. Documents are stored inside a collection and which is in turn stored inside a DB. So every JSON file is a document, or the group of documents are known as collections, and the group of collections are known as DB. It is something like, so you can replace documents with your tables, and group of tables are a schema, and the group of schemas are stored in a DB. A structure like that. So moving on further, okay guys, any doubts here anyone is having? Anyone? Okay, so the documents in MongoDB are quite similar to my JSON object, so we can use any one of those, and these are stored as field and value pairs. Now, the field and value may be included in other documents, in array or in array of documents. Now, imagine if you are willing to store this data over here, or this user field which you have stored, you want to have an address field which is not a document, which is not a field, but a sub-document, something like this. So it can have a field like, say, a street name, some name, a country, and some country code. And the PIN code or the zip code. Some code for that matter. Now, all these things put together, this is a sub-document which is stored inside a document. So now if you are, okay, this is fine, but what about storing arrays? So MongoDB also gives us you the flexibility to store arrays. How you store it? So like if you want to make your phone number as an array, you can store it like this: some number, comma, some number, and comma, sub number. So now this flexibility was not available in relational databases till now. And with the advent of MongoDB, it is possible. And that has given us the power to use or to explore using MongoDB. Guys, any doubts or any questions till this act or till this part now? If no, I'll move ahead. Okay. Now, why or should we actually migrate to MongoDB or no is the point. So the use of documents is really good. There's no doubt about it. So we don't need to have now native data bytes coming in. And whenever these applications were working on my Java, my Angular, or any application, all these applications were actually working on JSON objects. So all these JSONs were created from typically from a server and were to similar structure. So if we take it in that format, yes, it's really helpful for us, or it's really advantageous to us. Now we have ability to embed documents and arrays. Now till RDBMS is the only action point, or the only working style was having joins. Joins were expensive on the memory and on the server cache also. And with these schema, if you have modeled your data in a very proper manner, then you can have a very good object structure coming in term, or you can have a very good polymorphism coming in. This we will keep separate as a separate lecture when we discuss MongoDB someday. Now, to install MongoDB, you need to use the command. This is the official documentation. I've already shared it with you. You can install it on your end. Due to time constraints, we are not covering this as of now. And we'll be moving on to the last part, which is my Angular platform. Guys, any doubt in any of these modules till now? Anyone? Okay. So what is Angular? So basically Angular is an application design framework. So what do you mean by that? Like when you develop application or a single page application, okay. A new word, single page application. So what do you guys, what do you mean by single page? Anyone guys? Yes, what do you mean by a single page application? So an application in which the home page remains the same and the entire application floats is known as a single page application. If you want to see an example, I'll give you a very good example for that matter. Now, if you land up to your Amazon page and if you see, let's search for any product. Let's name it as iPhone 11. Once we reach this product, or once we go on this product, you will find that this particular page, if I change this product, the page is not refreshing, only the data is coming new. So since only data is the difference and these two are common, why should we actually change the whole page and reload the page every point in time? To save, or to save that effort, it was the need of the time to have a progressive framework like this, and that is which has come up using the single page application. So application which is a single page in its own point, and there is no interaction, or there is no need to reload the page on every interaction, is termed as a single page application. And these design objectives can be achieved using an programming language like Angular. So Angular is based on TypeScript. TypeScript is an object-oriented JavaScript based model, so we can learn it. And there was also a webinar scheduled on this, so you can try to explore that. Now, the common difference, people often confuse between AngularJS, Angular 2, and Angular. So these three are three different versions of Angular. AngularJS was a library. Angular 2 is more of a framework, right? So to remove, or to come up or to remove this confusion, the Angular team at Google has removed the entire JS thing, and it is called only Angular from now on. Guys, does that make sense? So we call it Angular owing to the power it has. And okay, just to add on, Angular is a programming language given to the world by Google. Now, so we have seen the working of Angular. This is my Angular living in. This is my MongoDB, and this is my JS, or my Node.js Express, my Express.js, and this is my Node.js. This is how a typical structure should look like. So whenever you send a request goes over here. It's passed on to the AngularJS. The request is passed by and is then transferred to the Node.js. From the Node.js, so Node.js is a server. This request is passed and given to Express.js. So Express has got the API call. Now it may need to, like say, imagine, if it's a username and password, and if you've only given the username, it will understand that I don't need to go to the database because password is not present. It will send the request back. So it will check that do we need to hit the database to get the request or I'm good. So whatever it does, it will go to the database if in case needed. If not, we'll give the response and we will return the request response to the Node.js, which will handle it and return it back and display the response over here to the client. So a client, like this is an e-commerce example for now. It can be a social media page. So the platform, the technology, that is all the same. The only difference is in the implementation of the same. Guys, any questions till now and till this part over here? I'm giving a 2 minutes of pause if anyone needs to have any questions. Guys, no one is having questions? So does it mean that all of you are good with this part? Okay. So moving on, so guys, we have got a bit of knowledge of all of our stacks. So we have seen the example with with one of these, and we have seen how do we work with MongoDB. Now let's turn back to create a complete structure and to create a complete application, right? Or the end-to-end project which we were talking about. So what we will do is we will now go to a framework which will help us create some APIs. So I'm creating some APIs which are there over here. Okay, I'll log in. Just give me a moment. So I'm creating a webinar project. So these are my member APIs which I'm trying to create, right? So I'm just so now these are all JSON based objects, and all of these are stored on a MongoDB. So that part I'm leaving as an abstract for you to explore right now, but I'm consuming these APIs to send a request to the server and to get the response. Okay, shall we try this now? Okay. Now, before we jump on, okay, so sorry, I missed one part, guys. That was single page. So we have seen single page. So what is single page? When in my application, I have only one page to render or to get the response, and I don't wait for I don't have to, get a new page every point in time. That is single page application. And single page make use of JSON, which is how my data is stored in a MERN stack, and coming used with JS. So JS is Angular. They give us a very smooth and a very simple look. Now, the advantage is that we don't need to, we get a very interactive UI, as if, we are using some application. It's faster. The client is able to run offline. Say if you're playing a game, you can run it offline as well. And so it uses CSS3, so which makes it to run perfectly on mobile phone, and it's a responsive design. That is all it is. Now we will move on to creating a project with Angular to get the end result of creating a member management system, guys. Can we try that? Okay, so I'll jump on to my terminal and I'll stop this particular execution. I'll come out of this library. I'm in my MERN webinar right now, and over here I say I'll navigate it over here. Now what I need to do is I need to create a member system. So for that, till now we were using MERN Stack, so that was with Node. Now we are creating an Angular application, right? So I will navigate and I'll say ng new. Ng is my Angular, new is the name which I'm giving it, and what I need to give it. So I'm giving it a name as, let's name it as some member application. I'll give it Eduonix member. Now, as soon as you give this command, it will ask you certain questions. So what are these questions? It is basically asking you, like, do you actually need a routing enabled? So what is routing? Like when you were on the home page, you were able to navigate to the hello world page. So routing is nothing but a concept or ability of my application to handle routes. So with time, my routes change. Like sometimes I'm on the product page, sometimes I'm on my login page, sometimes I am on my cart. So all those things are termed as route. So I say that yes, I need route enabled. Do you need CSS? Yes, we need CSS. So it is creating a system and it is loading it up for me. I'll wait for a few minutes for it to complete the entire process. Guys, this will take some time and I'll also navigate it over here so to show you what it is creating. So it's creating a source folder. These are the modules which it is adding and the package file, the angular.json file, all of these are created. Okay, so it is saying that package is installed successfully and it has also installed Git. So now next thing is I need to navigate down to my application and run the command for initialization. Now, this is my application. So I would say ng serve. So now what is ng? Ng is Angular and serve means to start onboarding my clients. Now, you notice that I'm not passing any folder name, any application. Why? Because I am in my folder and I have a file by the name of angular.json, which is already available and it knows that I have to start my initialization from the angular.json itself. So if we look at it over here, I am just trying to expand it. This is my folder. This is my angular.json. It has everything like where do you put your output file? This is the index file and everything which is to be running in is already given up over here. So I have written the command to serve. It is building some module. It will say take some time. So it is saying that the Angular Light Development Server is available. So we can open up our browser and start querying on. So this is my Eduonix member app. Now, if you want to learn Angular, you can follow these steps. But right now we are skipping this and we are moving on further. Now, if any one of you is interested in, I want to open up my browser directly, you can pass the command by passing the open parameter. So in that case, everything will happen, but the only difference will be it will automatically start up a browser for you as well. So it has started the browser. I'm not using this browser. I'll close it and I'll take it again to my this browser and it is still running. So no difference to me. What I need to do next is I'll close it for a minute for me to add other libraries. So I'll add the Bootstrap library. So you are free to use any Bootstrap instance or any CSS framework for your matter. It's your wish. You can take it as a personal choice. Now, once this is done, I would have to add my Bootstrap into this folder over here. So once this addition is done. Okay, so it has done. Okay, so I will now have to in the style. Okay, I'll pick up styles as well. So I'll add. So what I say dot star slash node underscore modules. So from the node modules, turn to the Bootstrap folder. In the Bootstrap, there's a distribution list, which is under which is a CSS by the name bootstrap.min.css. I'll save it. I'll go back to my browser. I'll refresh it. Oh, sorry, my server. Oh, okay. I'll skip this part for right now. Now I'm creating a member system. That means that I need to add some members and remove those, right? So I would say ng g c. So what it means is that ng, then I'm saying g is a command to create, and then c is for creation. I say I'm adding three components or three things which is for addition. So I'm creating first component for member add. So it has created three files, and it has also added it to the app.module. I'll show this change to you. So if you look in the source over here, in the source, in the app, I have got my member, and in the app.module.ts, I have added that I have got a new member component. So default was the app component, and this is my another component added up. Now, in a similar way, I create a component where I can get the list of all the members. And the last but not the least one, here I'll try to edit all the members. So three members, three components, and three components are available over here as well. Now, whatever components I have added, I'll copy these components over here and I'll add them to my routing library. So what is routing? Routing is to enable my application to start the routings. So in the app.routing.module.ts, I will add it. Now, I will have to create some routes, and the routes will be something like this. The first parameter is a path. Where should the path take the application to? I say inside the member, take it to the create. And which component will handle this part is given or is described by the add component. So in a similar way, I'll copy this part and I'll add this part. So if in case you say edit and you pass some ID, then you need to call the edit component. If in case you land up on a single component which says member and there is nothing else, just get the components and show it to the users. So these routes are added over here. So this should work up now. So now what we will do is we will say ng serve. So the application is perfectly fine. I copied and I serve it. Now this is my home page. Which page? So I have a page for members. Has the route not taken place? Okay, just a second, let me check. This should pick up now. Okay, and if I, okay, so name was members or member? Okay. Taking here. Just let me, give me a second here. So now once I'm having it over here, this is my member get component. And this is my JS member get component. Okay, I'll come to this part. Don't worry about it. Give me a second for this. Now, since we have to have the ability to navigate between the members, we would have to change our component app.component.html. This is my whole page. So this is just a placeholder. It is saying that we can replace it. And now I've already created some files or some HTML files for my quick reference. Okay, I'm not having it, I'll create it. And over here, I navigate it to the app. This is not the one. Okay, just a second. Okay, source and app.component.html. I copied. I am opening this one with VS Code by default. So I just simply copy and paste this because I don't want to waste my time in in creating these HTMLs. So I copy and paste this, and I paste it to my app.component.cs. So once we refresh the page, let us see. So I am getting the option. So create member and member. So it is saying that now member get is working. So if you see over here, I was missing this part, right? Guys, we are a bit short of time as of now. So shall I give you a demo of this running application and then explain you part by part? We are running short of time and we won't be able to complete this one. So what can be done is I have a running application. I can give you that demo and then we will open up for Q&A. Otherwise, we won't be able to take Q&As also, right? What say, guys? Okay. So guys, I will share this whole project with you for you to refer. Okay. So if I refresh my page over here, okay. So now you see it is, so this is what you were expecting. So the welcome page, I can create member and I can look for all the members. So these are all the members. So if I land on this page, I go to my home page, I create a member. Let's create a member by the name of Eduonix member. I give member bio and I copy this one. So with all the validation, all this is in place. And I give it some age. I create a member. If I refresh it, I would find that the member is added up. If I edit it, I land on the edit page. And if I go back and if I delete it, and correspondingly in the API also, I'm getting my responses, which means that the data is being processed to the database as well, right? Now let me explore this whole code for you. So this whole code is divided into 3 parts. So the first one is my app.html, which is my home page, which is having a link, and which once clicked on the home page or on the logo, it takes the home page. Two buttons, the 2 links, the create member and the members link. As soon as you go to members, it takes you to in the router link, it takes you to the members link. And in the members, you have a member get functionality, which is opening up this page for you. It is creating a table. The table has typically 4 columns, and the first 3 are the structure or are simply your name, age, and bio, the data you are accepting. And another one are the actions which is taking 2 columns, and there are 2 actions. So one is a delete action and another one is an edit action. Now, how about these action bind? So for this particular part of the code, I have to go to my TS file, and it has a function. This is my whole file. So it is saying that the selectors are this, This is my template URL. So guys, this all becomes a part of my Angular application. So what I had to show you was, so the hello world which I showed you, that was how I create APIs, and how I consume APIs is more of the Angular logic, or is more of the Angular handling. Now I'm creating a part of the service over here, and I'm calling the delete member, which is actually in turn going into the API and deleting my member. So if you look at it over here, this is my add member function, this is my get member function, edit, update, and the final one, delete one. So it goes, so what it does is it simply goes, it calls a delete, and it is deleting the data from the API. So this is a typical kind of application which we have designed. It's entirely in Angular and it's completely MERN Stack in nature. So you can use it as a part of your experience or as a part of your understanding. And these are the APIs endpoint which we have designed or developed. So you can go to the mock API register and start using it, or you can have it developed using your MongoDB and Express.js as well. So guys, any doubts in this part? Can we move ahead now? I'll share that part as well, just a second. So now, if you look at it over here, now this is my, no, not this one. So now, how I'm getting my member? So member is a class which is coming up from here. And whenever I'm talking member, I'm saying that the member is accepting three inputs or three types: the name, the bio, and the age. And regarding your question on addition, how is the validation applied? So my member add component is adding a validation from the Angular forms. So I'm getting validators. And on the validators, I'm saying that whenever you're creating form, on all these three values, I'm putting validators not required. I can have other validations as well, which will be something like, say, like it should be an email, it should be number, and all these conditional and all of these things can be handled from there as well. And this is my add member function. It is going to my member service and it is adding it by putting it on the API call directly. Okay, I'll move back to my PPT for now on. So this is the project which we created, and then we were to create we had to add bootstrap, we have already done it. Then we create new components, we have already done it. And then we added the routing, so we've already done all of this, and this was a typical application which we had to do.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe the channel. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up and share it. Also check out amazing discounts and offers on our premium courses in the description below.